Let's talk a little bit more about Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon restructures his contract to stay with the Bengals. 1 week from today, he will turn 27 years old. I'll probably forget next Monday. So, Joe, happy birthday in advance. He's been a top 10 running back per game in 4 of the last 5 seasons. In 2 straight seasons, he's been top 8 per game in half PPR, top 6 per game in full PPR. Yes, he scored a lot of points in one game against Carolina. If you want to remove that game, let's remove his best game last year. Let's remove his worst game last year. Let's remove the game he left early with an injury. I still think I think he would have been RB10 in every other week. Like his normal weeks, RB10 per game. And a lot of that was just the amount of catches the amount of passes he caught, the amount of catches he had. So how about the Pollard, Jacobs, Henry group? Is Mixon behind them?
Yes.
I have it Jacobs, Pollard, Mixon, Henry.
Okay. Why Mixon over Henry for you?
I think Henry's 2 years older. Like Mixon is at the spot, especially for Dynasty, where you start thinking, man, he could fall off a cliff at any moment. But I also think in your research, Adam, like age 27's been a pretty fantastic year for running backs.
Yeah, unbelievable year.
Age 29 has not.
So it's wrong about that, but maybe it's not unbelievable. I might have oversold it, but it's a good year. It's a good year.
Very good year. It's 28, 29 where the cliff usually happens. I think there's more age risk, more overuse risk for Henry than there is for Mixon. That's the only reason why. Okay,
and Jamie, I know you like Ramondre Stevenson. Everybody likes Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson or Mixon?
Stevenson still for me, but Mixon is not far behind. I think those guys are in a very similar spot. The thing that concerns me about Mixon is what's changed from his situation a year ago.
Well, it's gotten better.
Samaje Perine left.
Perine left. Mixon
but
the third down back last year.
The offensive line's probably better for run blocking, aren't they?
I would hope that they don't use anybody else in that regard. But I just don't see a big change.
Right, but he was like number 6 per game last year or something like that.
But again, you're still looking at that big game as part of that.
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody knows it. The guy has been shockingly inefficient as a running back. The regular metrics, the advanced metrics, they're just not good. I mean, they're just not good. And it's been almost
he's a volume guy.
Yeah. So Heath, you're not, it doesn't seem like you're buying what I'm saying.
I don't know if shockingly inefficient I would buy. Below average, I would agree with. Efficiency.
The reason I said that is because of the situation he was in, the light boxes that he faced. You would have expected him to.
But their offensive line for most of the time that Joe Mixon has been a Bengal has been awful.
Yeah.
And his career yards per carry is 4.1. Like he has 2 seasons in the last 5 below 4 yards per carry. I don't think it's fine. He's a little below average.
He's 1 year in his career above 4.1, right?
Yes.
That's not good. For a guy who is in such an advantageous situation. And then look at Samaje Perine.
I don't think it's a great situation.
Oh, it's such a good situation. Samaje Perine.
How's it not a great situation?
Mixon was out.
Their offensive line's been awful.
But it's not now.
Right. I think it's a good situation now.
I don't know if it was awful
I don't think it was awful last year.
It was like 21st in run blocking grade for
Okay, that's as shockingly bad as 4.1 yards per carry.
I think you're over. I think you're not.
What do you think is average for yards per carry for a running back?
I mean, that's an interesting question because how many running backs are we talking about here? When you're talking about, a top 12 fantasy running back, 4.1 is bad.
Guys who get 15 carries a game.
I honestly don't know. I would guess in the 4.3, 4.4 range.
I'll try to get that for you.
I would just think that people are very disappointed at Joe Mixon's career, basically, and he should be doing more. Well, look, Heath, if people believed in him, he'd be a first-round pick or an early second-round pick as the primary guy for the Bengals who caught, how many catches did he have last year? He had 60 catches in 14 games. He's the undisputed goal line guy. Why is he going to be picked probably in the 3rd round?
Because his ADP started in the 6th round because we thought he was going to get cut?
Do it all over again, and he is not going to be picked based on his fantasy production. He's going to.
If you're telling me right now that Pollard, Jacobs, and Henry are going at the 2-3 turn, there's no way Joe Mixon's getting into round 2.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that Pollard, Jacob, and Mixon's going at the 2-3 turn is more a product of best ball ADP influencing regular ADP. I do not think those guys will be at the 2-3 turn when we get to August, and it's mostly redraft drafts.
I still don't think Mixon gets into round 2 though.
Yeah, he may not, but I was saying it's, in my opinion, it's because of where he started at the beginning of the summer. I think he'll get to round 3.
Well, anyway, he'll get to round 3, but based on how productive he's been each of the last 2 years, he should clearly be a 2nd round pick, if not a late 1st round pick. But people aren't going to. They don't. I don't know. I think there's hesitation there.
Yeah, I think a big change is like Jamie and I are talking about him as a borderline top 12 running back, right? Maybe a high end number 2 running back, and that guy. That rank of running back is not getting into the 2nd round anymore. It used to be if you were the number 10 running back, you might be a 1st round pick.
He was the number 6 running back per game in PPR 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. And he's 27 years old. He's on one of everybody's favorite offenses. He is the undisputed lead back for that team. He caught 60 passes last year. There's a reason why Joe Mixon is not a 1st round pick. Everything I just said, he should be a 1st round pick. At worst, a late 1st. At worst,
well, I mean, go back to P. Ryan Leaving. Do you think he's getting more than 60 catches?
I don't, but because most of his catches came on 1st and 2nd down, I don't think they're going to throw to their running backs as much this year.
I have him at 63, but that's over 17 games as opposed to the 14 he played last year, so it's fewer per game.
The biggest thing when you just look at it is his lack of touchdowns. Like if he scores 3-4 more touchdowns, you can feel a lot better about him. And again, I know 4 of them came in one game, but
yeah,
it's just a lot of empty box scores for him.
Right. All right. So I'm sorry. My overall point is, if I told you, you got a 27-year-old running back who has been number 6 per game 2 years in a row, is on the Bengals, has no competition in his backfield, you would not think that guy is going in the 3rd round, which I think is where his ADP is going to be for a while. I think it's probably, it might end up going higher, but
he should end up as one of the best picks in the 3rd round, though. I mean, this was a guy that we were talking about. What was the ADP last year? Like end of the 1st round, beginning 2nd round?
I'm not sure. Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Top 15?
Yeah.
And I just think, where do you think he'll settle in terms of running backs? He's RB 12?
To be drafted?
Yeah. The 12th running back?
I would say that's fair. Somewhere between 10 and 15 would be what I would guess.
And most of the last 10 years, if you're an RB 12, you are a surefire 2nd round pick. It's been almost every year, at least 12 running. A lot of years, 18 running backs have been taken in the first 2 rounds. 16 running backs.
Based on what we're seeing, that Jefferson is probably going to be the 1st pick. Chase is probably going to end up being the 2nd pick. You're going to see a lot of people at the 2-3 turn looking at Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you could just ask yourself, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but why is a guy who's been number 6 2 years in a row going to be treated like number 12? And how long can we use how long can we use the contract situation as an excuse? Because that's gone now. So
I don't think you have to think about it that way, but I think also, there are a lot of people that clearly feel the way you do, that he's been inefficient, that he's been disappointing for where his overall numbers have put him. That if you look at his, games from a year ago, there's one game that spikes and the rest of them are sort of okay. But I think, if you're starting to compare him to, and you have to use the word upside, where does his upside lie by comparison to Derrick Henry, to Tony Pollard, to Josh Jacobs, to Jonathan Taylor, to Saquon Barkley? I don't think he's going to crack the top 3, but I think once you start to get through 4 through 12, there's certainly he's in that conversation. To me, he feels closer to, and take this for what it's worth, but in terms of volume, he feels closer to Najee Harris to me than he does to those other guys. Just the guy's going to get a lot of opportunities. He's got less competition than Najee does at this point, but similar type of scenario. He's going to get the ball a lot. Hopefully he's going to get 50 plus catches, and if he gets the total numbers, will be good at the end of the season. Just the week-to-week stuff will kind of feel a little disappointing.
Well, if their offensive line improves, I think you can make some very, very obvious Josh Jacobs comparisons, because Jacobs went from a 4-yard per carry guy to a 4.9 yard per carry guy, got every touch for that team, everyone that mattered basically. And if their offensive line gets better, which it should, maybe Mixon can be that guy. Maybe he could be a shocking, RB2 or something like that. Is that so far-fetched? I think
no, if he scores, if all the opportunities that he gets, if he scores more touchdowns, he'll be fine. Because if you're talking about a 60-catch guy that's going to get 250 carries, that's hard to overlook.
Right. But yeah, Jacobs had 340 carries. I don't know if Mixon gets there, but they didn't run a lot. They had the fifth lowest run rate last year. But all right, point ended there with Joe Mixon.